Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going through my round 22 AFL tips and predictions, but as we always do, let's see how we did in round 21. So last week I ended up getting a pretty decent round. I got 8 out of 9 and the only one that I did get incorrect was the first game between the Giants and the Bulldogs. Yeah, look, the Giants were really disappointing. Even though they were missing their skipper, Toby Green, they were just really poor. The Crows ended up getting the victory over the Hawks in a pretty good game. I tipped the D's. Yeah, look, that one was a pretty obvious tip. The D's blew away the Eagles. Tipped Gold Coast in another easy game. Same with the Eagles match. The Suns just blew away the Tigers. Tigers only scored 2 goals in that one. So, yeah, the Suns were awesome there. I also got the Sydney tip correct. I thought that the Bombers honestly were going to run over the Swans maybe for a bit. But Sydney, they did enough. Both teams are playing for nothing. And, yeah, Sydney won there. Got the Brisbane tip correct. That was a really good tip. Collingwood came hard at Brisbane after they had a pretty good start, the Lions. But the Lions ended up holding on for the game. And the Pies, they've lost 3 out of their last 4, so they're a bit out of form at the moment, which is pretty interesting. Got the Saints tip correct over North. Was a little bit disappointed that we couldn't score more, considering that we were playing pretty decently against top 8 sides and were able to kick a few more goals, but against North we couldn't. But credit to the Roos, they had much more of a response, but the Saints, I feel like we should have been up by probably a bit more with some of our missed opportunities, and we ended up getting the result there. Just tipped the Cats. That was easy. I went 62. Should have gone even more. They won by 88, and then the Dockers had a great second half against Carlton getting home. So I got 8 out of 9. Let's see if I can do better in round 22. And to kick off round 22, we have a pretty decent game at the MCG. Two sides that are out of form at the moment that will want to be getting back in form. We do have the Pies taking on the Hawks. Now, this is a very interesting game because, yeah, look, Collingwood have lost 3 out of their last 4, as I just said, with their only win being over Richmond. So, yeah, look, at the G, they've been a bit more vulnerable, the Pies, losing 2 out of their last 3 games there. And, yeah, look, against the Lions, they had a really poor start to the game, and they probably deserved to lose in the end. But some of their veterans are just kind of running out of gas. Obviously, the main point is that they are still without their skipper, Scott Pendlebury, at the moment. But yeah, look, I don't think it should be making much of a difference, but it really does prove how much of a difference he does make to the side. But whether it's him being out the last couple of weeks or I don't know what it is, they just haven't been able to really get back on track. And now the Crows are taking first spot. They want to be winning this game. The Pies, but the Hawks will be even want to be winning this game more because they had a chance against the Crows. They were winning at quarter time, but then the Crows ended up storming back over them. So this is going to be a massive game. Will Day will be out for the Hawks, which is a massive out. We know that the Hawks, he is one of their best players, and yeah, for him to go out, that's really going to make a input on this result here. And look, Hawthorn need to especially win this game. Collingwood will be trying to stay in the top 4. Hawthorn need to win this game. If they lose this, they've got a very tough run home still after this game. And I feel like we could get a Hawthorn response here, and I wouldn't honestly shock me if the Hawks do come out. And I am considering tipping them in an upset. The Pies are out of form here, but the Hawks, they will be without Will Day, so I'm not sure. Can they lift to the occasion? If they lose this game, they're not confirmed to miss the 8, but it would be pretty hard seeing them make the 8, especially with Will Day out now and some of their tough runs coming up. But I'm going to go the Pies here. I think this will be a good game. The Pies need to respond. So do the Hawks, but I think this is going to be a very good game. Both sides will give it their all. And yeah, look, I think it will be a much closer result than we did see earlier on in the season. I'm going to go the Pies here in a thriller by 5 points. Then, not really the most pleasing matchup on the Friday night, but it is the Cats taking on the Bombers down at GMHBA. And yeah, look, the Bombers lost 9 in a row now, and obviously they are tanking out, but they just haven't been really competitive in any of their performances. Last week was a bit of a blip in the radar, though. They were actually pretty competitive, especially away from home. Obviously, the Swans do still have quite a few injuries, and now that they knew they weren't going to make the 8, maybe that's why they probably didn't end up thrashing the Bombers, but credit to them. Some of the young stars are really good, and if they'd have kicked a bit more accurately, you never know. They could have possibly won that game, but they didn't, and yeah, look, unfortunately for their fans, they do sit in the bottom 4, and they have lost 9 in a row. As for the Cats, they've won 3 in a row now. They're just almost like flat track bullies at the moment, but they can still beat some good top 8 sides. But yeah, look, they're 14-6 there. They'll be winning this game, and they'll be wanting to win it big too, because they don't really need a percentage booster, but when it is a tight competition, they they probably would want to get a bit more percentages on the board so they can maintain that top 4 spot. I think they do have like 133% at the moment, but this is a pretty obvious tip for me. There's just no way I can see the Bombers getting up. They have to be at least 15 above dollars in this one. I'm going to go the Cats here. And I guess which would you could say is a thrashing. I'm going to go the Cats by 74 points on the Friday night. We move over to the MCG for the earlier Saturday game now, where we do have the Saints and the Tigers. Now, we'll start off with the Saints. Yeah, look, against North, I thought we played all right. I thought our first quarter was pretty average in that last quarter as well. I thought that, considering we did make that massive comeback against the Ds and we kicked 9-0 in that quarter, I thought maybe we could put up something like that, but I'm not sure whether it was maybe just the players still getting caught up from last week, as we do know. We saw it with the Giants at Marvel where they got thrashed, or maybe it was just something like that where, the players were thinking about Nazai's contract and all that. I'm not sure, maybe they're still parting, but yeah, look, they didn't have the best start, but a win's a win, and it really doesn't matter because we're not going to make finals. So just getting the win there doesn't really matter, and North needed a response. So at the end of the day, it's probably a bit more of an underrated win, but we still held on. Just a bit disappointed that we did kick the 11 goals, and that last quarter we did hang off a bit. As for the Tigers, well, yeah, look, against the Suns, they just were never going to win the game. I mean, look, they did have a couple of highlights, I thought, maybe around the ground, but they only kicked the 2 goals for the match, which I'm pretty sure was the lowest score since 2021, and the least amount of goals kicked since 2021. So, yeah, look, not much to be said there, but that is going to happen with the Tigers. They're going to have some performances where they get thrashed, and this is a bit more of an interesting game because Richmond have been playing really well at the G. They lost to the Pies by 6 goals, but they have been really well at the G, so I feel like this could be a game where I could see us dropping it. Mitch Owens, I do believe, will also be out for this game, which he is a pretty big out when you do look at it. So this is going to be, feel like an interesting game, but we're playing Richmond. We should still be winning with how the Tigers have been performing this year, and I think we will win. I'm going to have confidence. I'm going to back my team in. This one could honestly go either way, but we should be the favourites. We should get up here. I'm going to go the Saints by 16 points at the MCG. We then head over to the Gabba now, where we do have the Swans and the Lions taking on each other. Again, kind of a game where there is a heavy favourite coming into this match. Not really one that I guess many people would watch, but it's still going to be played. And yeah, look, the Lions got a massive response after they were really disappointing in the Q Clash, but they responded, and I could just tell they were going to respond. They never usually go out of form, the Lions, apart from really last year where they had that really poor start when they started off 0-3. Never really go out of form. They've always proved that they can respond. As for the Swans, well, they got a plucky win over the Bombers. Obviously, they probably should have won by more with their inaccurate kicking, and just considering it was the Bombers, and how young that team and injury-depleted team was, despite them being pretty injury depleted themselves. But at the moment, they're not going to make the 8 anyway, so I'm not sure if they're tanking, whether they're trying to remain competitive, but yeah, look, I think this should be a pretty easy tip here. You'd expect the Lions at the Gabba to get up in this one. Isaac Heaney, though, has been still a highlight for the Swans this season, so maybe he can lift to the occasion. And yeah, look, at the Gabba, this is the grand final rematch as well, but it's not really one you'd be looking forward to. I think this is an obvious tip here. I'm going to go to the Lions in this one by 30 points at the Gabba. We head over to Marvel Stadium, where we do have the Blues taking on the Suns. Now, we'll start with the Blues. I thought against Fremantle for the first 2 quarters, especially the first quarter when they kicked the first 4 goals, were looking really good. I thought they were really impressive, and even though they did lose the game in the end, but I thought they actually played pretty well, but obviously they just couldn't handle Fremantle's late pressure. Fremantle were awesome in the late quarter, but yeah, look, they did really just take Fremantle's game style away for that first half, so if they can bring it against the Suns back at Marvel, it will be a very interesting game, I do believe. Gold Coast, on the other hand, yeah, look, they're just continuing their great run at the moment. They should really be making finals from here. This can also kind of be considered a bit of a danger game for the Suns, just because it is a Marvel where they don't usually play their best football, although they have played their great really well, and Dimon never likes coming over to Marvel, but we'll get back to the Suns' form. Yeah, look, they've just been really good, thrashing the Tigers, and they do still have a really good percentage, 122%, but when you're in a tight competition where you could really finish anywhere within that A, you would want to be getting a good percentage here. And I don't think this is going to be a game where the Suns do come out and thrash the Blues. I know the Blues, at the moment, they're very injury depleted. Their game style's not going to hold up against really anyone, but I feel like this should be a pretty interesting contest for most of it. But I do think the Suns will ultimately get up. The Suns should be winning this. If they don't win this, then yeah, look, that's just going to put the spotlight right back on them. The pressure's going to go right back on them. But they should be winning this. So I'm going to go the Suns by 13 points at Marvel. Then on the Saturday night now, we head over to the south of Australia for the Port Adelaide and Fremantle match. We'll start off with the Dockers. Look, against the Blues, I thought in that first half they were pretty poor, to be honest. And again, kind of like some of their wins they've had this season, they weren't as convincing, but they still got the job done. But the issue is for them now is their percentage. They are finding the wins. And you got to give credit to Justin Longmeal, but they do need to start winning these games by. You'd expect a bit more because I believe they have the worst percentage in the top 8 currently. So that's something they will want to fix, considering that they should really be making the 8, but that percentage could let them down. The Power, there's not really much to be said about them. Clearly, they are tanking, and I do feel bad for the coach and Ken Hinkley because this is his last season. You'd think they'd be more competitive, but they've had, I think that's now the 5th or 6th 80-point loss in the season. And yeah, look, it's even, you could even make an argument that even Essendon are better than the Power at the moment. Certainly sides like, I believe, the Saints, the Swans, are certainly better than the Power, just remaining more competitive. But yeah, look, they couldn't stop Jeremy Cameron, the Power. He continued his run of goals. But I feel like this could be considered a bit of a danger game for the Dockers, just considering it is away at the Adelaide Oval and they never play well there. I can't remember the last time they won at the Adelaide Oval. They've lost their last, 4 against the Power at the Adelaide Oval. So it genuinely wouldn't shock me, just knowing that Fremantle's from the Adelaide Oval and they still can be a bit more of an inconsistent side. And just that the Power do need a response for Ken in his last season. I believe this is the second last home game. Maybe the Power can find something, and I think they will shock a lot of people and come out to play here. So this can be considered a bit of a danger game for the Power, but the Dockers should be winning. I think this will be a close game, but I honestly really do. I know that sounds stupid with the Power getting thrashed every week, but I think the Power will come out and respond, but I reckon the Dockers will just hold up under the pressure, and I think the Fremantle do win this game by 8 points at the Adelaide Oval. Then to kick off the Sunday now, where we do head over to Manuka Oval for North Melbourne taking on the Giants. Now, we'll obviously start with the Giants. Look, I thought they were poor. To go down by 88 points in a game that I really shouldn't have backed them in there. It was just really disappointing for the Giants, considering the great form that they had been in. Lika Leo just couldn't stand Norton, and Darcy had a field day out. Thought Stringer was also disappointing. The package said he couldn't just kick a few more goals. And yeah, look, they were just really poor. I know they were missing their skipper in Toby Green, and had a few young guys that really just didn't lift up to the occasion, like McMullen and another guy. So disappointing there for the Giants. As for the Roos, well, obviously they're on a bit of a losing streak now. That's 6 straight in the row, but they were a bit more competitive against the Saints, and honestly thought as a Saints fan that the Roos might actually come home, especially in those last few minutes, just considering they were lifting for the occasion. But that wasn't to be. The Saints ended up winning by 9 points, but I guess that was a better performance for the Roos. But again, a game that they really could have won, but they did just stuff up a few more chances. Look, at Manuka, the Giants should really be responding. Maybe you could see a North upset, just potentially. But no, I think this should be a pretty straightforward game. Toby Green will be back for the Giants, and I'm going to go the Giants in. A pretty good win here by 52 points at Manuka. Then we head over to the G now, where we do have the Ds taking on the Dogs, in which I feel like it's a bit more underrated game at the round here, because if we look at the form coming into this, you should be seeing the Bulldogs really realistically thrashing Melbourne. But the Melbourne have won their last 5 at the MCG against the Bulldogs, and I can't remember the last time the Bulldogs actually beat Melbourne at the MCG. So this could be a very interesting game. Just also considering that the Ds, they did get they did get a bit more confidence back, obviously thrashing the Eagles. It was a very good performance by some of their stars. Van Rooyen had a really good game. Petrarca, Fritsch, and they really just demolished the Eagles, in which I thought it wouldn't be them demolishing the Eagles. I thought they'd only win by a few goals, but credit to them. They responded after the disappointing loss against the Saints, but this is a game that the Bulldogs need to win, because you think if they drop this, just one loss, and it's really not looking good for them. It's pretty much a race between them, Hawthorn, for me at the moment. The most two sides that are probably likely to miss the 8 at the moment, but I do think that the Ds will come out here and give the Dogs a run. I definitely could see the Ds getting up, just knowing their form, but Luke Beveridge, he's a good coach when he's under pressure. He knows how to get these wins here, and I think the Dogs will ultimately get the job done. They really should be, and they need to get the job done here. I'm going to go the Dogs. A bit of a scare the D's will give them, but I'm going to go the Dogs by 11 points at the MCG. Then for the last game of the round now, where we do have the Eagles taking on the Crows, and yeah, look, this should be a straightforward, obvious tip here. Look, is there really much I need to say? I mean, the Eagles, they were just shocking against the Ds, and they're going to have losses like those. But considering that I thought maybe there were a chance to get up, especially knowing that Melbourne's confidence would be low after that loss to the Saints, but just wasn't to be, Shanahan had a really good game, though, and that was pretty much the only highlight for them. Liam Ryan doing some good things, as always. As for the Crows, well, they got up over the Hawks. They were pretty decent there against the Hawks, considering they were put under the pump, like I did expect the Hawks to come out firing, but they've just proven to be a really good team, and if they win this by enough, their percentage is the best in the comp, 144%. Now, so they are really blitzing Collingwood. If they should really win this, and I think they will. But yeah, look, they're looking to finish top spot. But I'm going to go the Crows. This is an obvious tip. I'm going to say the Crows win this by 63 points at Optus. So everyone, those are my tips for round 22. Let me know your tips and predictions in the comments below, and if you agree or disagree with me, and we'll see you in the next video.